Generally, we all think that the ground beneath us is rock hard and unable to move, especially when said ground is composed of notoriously strong igneous rock types composed of solidified lava and, for a spot in the interior of Japan, comprising the southern edifice of the active Mount Ontake volcano, this was the case for many thousands of years. That was, until disaster struck on September 14, 1984. On that day, at 8:48 a.m. local time in the morning, stress major earthquake building up on a buried strike-slip fault line was released, triggering significant horizontal ground motion that then also caused a second fault line to slip. A magnitude 6.8 earthquake had just been generated, and due to its absurdly shallow epicenter of a mere 2 kilometers or 1.2 miles below the surface, it created absurdly intense ground shaking and significant damage in regional structures. This shaking caused the ground in some areas to temporarily accelerate to 70% the force of gravity, translating to 6.87 meters or 22.54 feet per second. Since it had rained 6 of the last 7 days on the surrounding hills and mountains, this was a recipe for disaster as the ground was already saturated with water and thus heavier than it would otherwise be during the 40 seconds of intense shaking. As a result, the ground began to move in dozens of locations simultaneously, commencing multiple large landslides. As multiple distant rumbles became audible, an even louder one began on the southern flank of the active Mount Ontake volcano, which had last erupted a mere 5 years prior. All of a sudden, a massive patch of land which was 1,170 meters long, 640 meters wide, and averaged 68 meters or 223 feet thick started to visibly move. In mere seconds, an entire ridge landslide path of the Ontake volcano vanished as a half a square kilometer swath of ground collapsed to the south-southeast, accelerating to speeds of 55.8 miles per hour or 89.8 kilometers per hour. In only 12 seconds' time, a 35 million cubic meter wall of rock started to run up and then quickly overtop a 100 meter or 328 foot high hill of the Komikasa Plateau. This rock then divided into 3 prongs, dividing around Mount Komikasa and an additional ridge which also started burying and carving away at additional drainages. The main lobe of the rapidly advancing landslide then turned to the southwest, advancing down the Danjo River, burying much of this area in more than 50 meters or 164 feet thick of rock. 65 seconds in, this had sadly resulted in 5 fatalities, all of whom were mushroom hunters in moist dark patches of forest. 35 additional seconds later, further disaster struck, at a recreational hot spring was obliterated, causing 4 more fatalities. The landslide then ran up and jumped over another ridge, merging with water and mud in the Nigori River, increasing the volume of the debris avalanche.